Hey, Peter, say hi.
Hey, happy 75th. Yes.
You bet.
You don't get Coke bottles.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Good morning. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Cindy.
Good morning. Good morning.
I don't know where my boat is.
Who are you racing with?
I was supposed to race with number 80, but when I went over there, it was gone. Yeah, that's what we were looking for.
Hey, Jim. You want a fourth? How do you want me to get aboard? Over here?
Yeah, 12's back.
Bring any ice?
No.
On your right, bud. They got the. Let's see if we can find one for Daddy. Get for Daddy. I know you. Remember how we and Tom Glazer was on his bed, and he had to sit down and finish his stuff. This is the final story. Something happened to my camera. Second race? It did? No. I took a picture and now it doesn't work. Can you turn it on? I wonder if my batteries are dead. On the combination. What's that doing?
Where's Charlie's camera, but take some pictures with Charlie.
Oh, I don't even know how to use Charlie.
Neither do I.
Oh, really?
That paragraph out. taken last year.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Are they going right out or out to the yard?
Well, the start isn't for... They say they were jockeying back and forth whether they're following the leader up there or not. I couldn't tell
They're
you.
going to come around and come back in the harbor. That would be terrific. Isn't that great? 5, 6, 7, 9. Yeah. This is fantastic. But how do you read this as well? Yeah.
Maybe. Can you help me with what number it might be?
Yeah, I gotta take this one. Oh, can you? Oh, all right. You take Charlie's camera, can you take this? No, he doesn't care, but he's got me, and I'm real useful. And he knows it.
Which category am I in? Oh, thank you. Seven. Start with 7.
Daddy doesn't want to use it in? Japan. Huh?
You know the Marina Fish Market of West
Oh,
Yarmouth?
Chatham.
They had a plane flying over the
Well, the Japanese have been getting a lot of swordfish. They freeze it on the boat. They freeze the whole swordfish.
by the end of the day,
They ship it
didn't have any left.
that same day or fly it to these local distributors, and then it is sliced in the local market. Not, in other words, this is supposed to be the best way if you have to buy it. That's what they explained to me at the gourmet section at the A&D. So there was another fella who said, if you don't like it, bring it back, or bring back your slip, we'll give you your money back. So I wouldn't hesitate to try that again. But I had flounder cooked the other night. I came down. I said to the kids, what do you feel like doing? Bob wasn't down. I ran over to Angelo's again because it was close. They had flounder, $3.99 a pound, fresh. Lemon butter, sauce, onion butter, and a little salt. gonna say all clear anyway.
147.
It's passionate.
No.
Yes.
with one eye. The other eye I'm watching the mark.
that better, Win? No, 120. Oh, for a minute, the red shirt
Yeah.
and everything. It's Zephyrine. See?
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the master of ceremonies tonight. But I think there is one response that is worth repeating at this dinner. It comes from a good friend of mine whose name I will not mention. It says, "Dear Bink, here are my checks for the class association dues, the Scudder Cup entry fee, and a check for those shirts and flags you guys are peddling. Please note that I've also sent checks to the Wianno Yacht Club to pay for the dinner and the privilege of going to the big parade. Bink, we're broke. I'd appreciate it if you don't send me another thing to do with that damn boat." It's not my job tonight to thank people, but as treasurer, I do appreciate your responses to all the requests that we've all made over the last few years to get things moving. And this is the only chance of any of us to say thanks for the money, so I will. With that out of the way, I would like to introduce the chairman of the Wianno Senior Class Association and Class Committee, George Edmonds. Thanks, mate. What a fabulous day we had for our parade and our race today. Mother Nature couldn't have been more cooperative. She must have known we wanted to sail our seniors. We had 384 people to dinner tonight here. We had 55 seniors in the parade. Beautiful. 41 racing in the Scudder Cup Series. I've never seen anywhere near that many. We had 8 more in the cruising canvas. Absolutely a great turnout. I hope they're all going to be there again tomorrow. I am going to do some thank yous now. The first thing I have to thank is the Wianno Yacht Club and their staff and their members who've done a huge effort. In particular, we have to thank George Cronin who organized that parade. Did everything. And also Ken Legler and Ken Edmonds who ran the race and all their assistants. The judges were Penny Hare, Bill Kirby, and Stuart Jones, who also did a fabulous job with judging. The committee who arranged this, the chairman, Faith Bacon and Don Law, Joe Hinkle. Joe Hinkle put together the history, and with Don Law's help, created the great book that you have. Cindy Walker and Sally Edmonds arranged this dinner, which I thought was fabulous. And Jamie Hess wrote unlimited letters, made phone calls, and actually drove around and tracked down seniors to provide the list that is in both our book and in what you have tonight. Dick Taylor represented the cruising seniors in all this, which was a great addition. Edie Bacon and Jane McDonough arranged the decorations, and Dick Egan and Crosby Yap, both for their support and for in advance for their lunch tomorrow. I'd like to read the letter from Sherry Steer. I have sent you your separate cover, silver trophy, awarded to tennis his father, an Order of Venture in 1932, awarded by the Wianno Club. I thought it might be fun, a fun special something for your 75th. Part of me will always be with the Wianno Seniors at the Cape. I appreciated being invited to the festivities. David would be pleased. We have this trophy, and we're going to award it. We have this trophy, and we're going to award it. We would like anybody's suggestions as to what we should award it for. People have suggested it might be the best average over 3 years. It might be the most number of firsts. It might be something for Acretown that was a keeper, or a permanent trophy for Acretown.
The best blue boat.
Yes.
All right. The best blue boat with a white insert. There's only two.
Big alternative. Thank you very much, George. We considered a program of entertainment tonight and decided that instead we might have one or two speakers who agreed to speak between 30 and 40 seconds each. The one that I'd like to call on now is someone who appears often in the book, which is on the table in front of you. His name always appears right before the phrase, "I beat." The only problem with that is that only a few people can say that, and they can only usually say that about 1 or 2 races. And considering the fact that this man has probably been in several hundred against most of us, it's something that we can all treasure if we ever did happen to beat him. But it should be recognized that usually it was a goal merely to be aspired to. In addition, this man was instrumental in bringing the Wianno Senior sail, which is the crucial piece of equipment that makes it go, into the post-war era. In addition, he ran the class committee for some 10 years and served on it for a lot longer than that. And he's just been a major figure in our class. And I would like to call on Jack Fallon to
system. I certainly am going to probably go a little bit longer than 50 seconds, but most of that 50 seconds will be used in congratulating Don Lahr and his wonderful crew. I mean, if the basketball has something else, you know, to lead that, come out to start as he did and get over there to the right, clear air, and pull that lead, and then go into that dying orderly on that last beat to the finish line, and he's tired, he's up tense, and then you got this old man over here on the left-hand side of the course, blue gun, and you got young master of the school over here on the right side, on the east side, and then you have young lady with the name of Edmonds there coming up the middle. And then you find Don Lahr peeling off a little bit early, and the wind is doing a dance through 20 degrees to the left and 20 degrees to the right. Lou says, I think I got him. O'Toole over here on his hip, I'm going to take him. Don hangs on there top, 20, maybe a quarter mile from that finish line. Lou Gunn is riding over on top of him with a foot-tack lift. And it was the greatest finish, believe me, that I've seen in Wianno yacht racing in many years. But to the great champion who held on there, made that close to the Don Lahr. Super efficient. sure there was a lot of nostalgia in that fleet. There were a lot of people out there thinking of many years of sailing. Myself, 40 years with the Wianno. And going down that harbor and looking back at the Wianno Yacht Club and looking at those boats, very frankly, my thoughts were with men like Dave Steer. They were with Commodore Jim Hickman. They were with Commodore Sinclair. They were with Commodore Horner. They were with John Kiley. They were with Ross Richards. They were with Stan Pretty. And I'm sure there are others that have gone before us. So those are the great men who made this class what it is today. The pictures in there show them. Over and above that, I'm looking at those folks over here. It's great to see you, Bill, in supporting the Wianno Senior class. You're a great fellow, and we're all looking forward to beating you if we can. Okay? Now, I just want to say very sincerely a little bit about why I love my Wianno and why I love all you people out there, the crews, the skippers. My experiences over the years with Dave Steer have taken me all practically in every major race on the East Coast. Certainly in Europe, we went over, did very well over there. We did well with the Yankee Girl over the 15 years we pushed her around the courses from Jamaica all the way up to Halifax, Nova Scotia. But when we would get through racing our great yacht, Yankee Girl, we would come back here and get into a Wianno. And that was a very sobering experience. Because after winning and feeling like we're big men in international competition, out of nowhere, a George Evans, a Big Bacon, a Burns, a Kylie, a Gunn, I could go on forever. Would be a couple of boat lengths ahead of us at the finish. And we said, we're not so big after all. We've got to come back here and practice to take on what I consider the finest sailors in the United States, sailing the finest boats in the United States.
And what it stands for is the only thing that can follow some of the people that have been in it, including Jack. And when we talk about the parade, I think that the real event of the day was seeing 60 boats lined up over 1.25 miles, all in order by sail number. And tonight we would like to honor people who were in that parade and who were out racing today, who really represent the real history of our class. And I would like to call on Jim Bartlett of the Bass River Yacht Club to present the prizes and to tell us a little bit about some of the very special people who are out there with us today.
All right.
Being a little short and fat, I'm going to change this microphone. Following Jack Fallon is not a hard thing for me to do because I've done that through all my life. I'm
going to hold the camera still and I'm laughing.
Jack was one of the great sailors of this club, and during the late 50s and early 60s, he was unbeatable. He had light red spinnakers and heavy red spinnakers and reaching red spinnakers and full red spinnakers. And all I knew, they were red spinnakers and they were really out in front. But I guess my job is now from the serious to a little bit of frivolity. And I've been tagging along in the back of this fleet with a bunch of kids for a long time, over 30 years. And I suppose what I want to say is that the nicest thing to me is that we've had maybe 6 or 7 people out here racing today that started to race Wianno Seniors with me, and they're racing their own boats. That's the nice part. The bad part is they're always going by me like a shot. Prizes are, number 1, for the oldest Wianno Senior. This was a very tough call because we were concerned back in early June that all 14 of the original boats would show up. But we were lucky. This is award so that the individuals involved need to come up and shake everybody's hand. Number 7, a boat when I grew up in Bass River was called Valkyrie, and I think she was called Valkyrie for most of her life. That was some lady that had short skirts on a rock somewhere in the Mediterranean. But she's now called Thursday. That's Dick Yulian, number 7. He led the parade today. How'd you like to be 40 years old and still call Biggie? His wife, Edie. Biggie and Edie and the little big cat. But Edie, these are paintings from Edie, what is it? Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Jim. And I second what Jack Fallon said, and I want him to put it in writing so I can put it on the national news wires. Maybe the rest of the world will believe it too. I thought the same thing when I saw the first senior race. Jack Fallon won it. And I said the same thing to the people in the boat. The finest boat, the finest sailors I've ever seen in my life. Thanks very much.
The next award is to the boat that's come the farthest distance. You know, we can't even buy charts on Cape Cod from where this fellow came from. The boat is number 51, I believe she's called Corsair, from Lake Minnetonka, Minnesota. Some guys in some big boats that understand scows, and they're amazing boats. But anybody from Lake Minnetonka, as far as I'm concerned, is okay. This is Henry Young, number 51, Corsair. How was I-95 in the traffic?
Images that one never forgets, and I will never forget this image today. And I just want you to remember one thing when you go out to the harbor, that the majority of America, you could never see 55 gaff rigs. I'll never forget that.
Help me with the line, so it's not. As they say around East 4th and Broadway, he did good. Third. Joe D. Hinkle on Fantasy 137. They were dressed as 1930s. Wasn't much of a surprise to the committee because they always have been dressed like Number 143, that's Pergalote, something to do with some English poet. They had a great flag, their name was the Lloyds, and they were dressed as the Lloyds. But the nicest thing about that boat is that Papa Lloyd, who was, I think, age 81 or approaching that, was aboard with a couple of generations. So they deserve I would be remiss if I didn't seize a chance to say thank you, Jimmy Bartlett. One of my great shticks is that I have this silly starboard running light on my leg. I think it's the right one. Occasionally in amorous adventures it flashes. But I have two young ladies that are racing with me this year, and by a total surprise to me, in Bass River today, Greta Benedict and Meredith Godley showed up with port and starboard shirts. Now let me tell you, if you ever race with port and starboard women, I'd recommend it. And the winner is those fabulous, fuzzy, furry guys from Hyannisport. Number 127. The crew members, first of all, were more important because they had to get in those silly suits. Hank Cassidy and Whitney Wright with a great walrus mustache. The two brothers that have sailed that boat for about as long as I've sailed these boats are Peter and Timmy O'Keefe, and they've won the
all afternoon. Yeah, hold this here.
Great deal on the course, but we enjoyed it anyway. It was a great day, and I appreciate, for Edie particularly, I've been lusting in my heart for one of these pictures for years, and thank you very much.
Now, the fourth category is home restorations. I think he asked me to award this category. I wasn't sure if the fireplace was over there or no, we should put a bay window over here. But what that means is really the people that put their efforts and their carpentry skills and didn't need any pumps into restoring Wianno Senior, which really has brought the class back. There's some honorable mentions here. Number 121 is Argo 2, a guy named Dana Weeder, who took the boat up in some barn in, was it Exeter, New Hampshire? Took it all apart, according to Bink, and put it back together in the right place. He beat us today, so the measurers might show up tomorrow. But so that's 121, Argo 2. Here. On which leg? All up. 110, who's, I don't think he's here for the dinner tonight, but a fellow named George Douglas in Madrigal, was an old Harwichport boat. He used to come up lime green, it seems to me. Somehow, probably because she leaked a lot, they were always in Harwichport where there was no wind. But he's done a lot of work on her. He was out here today. She's blue with, I think, white combing. And he said, please don't tell anybody how many sister ribs they put in her because she's for sale. But 51 Corsair. I understand though that Henry Young didn't do all the work himself on that, but he deserves some credit from first of all, to get the boat to come from Minnesota to here. Again, honorable mention, a fellow named Glenn Plimpton. If you were confused that there were two 156s out there, the Wianno Yacht Club was as well, because we've been sailing here for 30 years. They still don't even know who I am, and I'm not that, you know, being short and fat with a hat, who, you know, is never going to figure out who I am. That's P-Y-X-I-S. It sounds like a charter commercial in Adventures. Glenn, if you'll excuse me, maybe we could, that's number 48. Final honorable mention is John Kiley, who now has 85 venture, and of course we all know that Dave Steer was a great sailor, and it's nice to see that boat out there. John goes fast a lot of times. And the winner, I guess really quite a job of restoration. Number 80, a boat called Arden. Fellow from South Weymouth, Massachusetts. I think in the back of my mind, this boat was called Anniversary about 25 years ago. Maybe Peter O'Keefe perhaps sailed on her.
It was before that. She was number 80. She was Anniversary, sailed by Sam Hartwell, and before that she was Neonym, sailed by Whitney Wright, and goes back in our fleet just about to the beginning. Incredible.
The owner is Philip Holbrook, and Phil, come up. Few words of wisdom about how many screws you use.
Approximately 1,500 screws. Approximately 1,500 screws in liquid, 37 gallons of epoxy, and 600 square feet of veneer. Thank you very much. Thank you.
From South Weymouth, Mass, the real question is, how did you get through the canal? So the canal, did we say that?
With a prayer.
Thank you. And now is the next to final, that's the penultimate, I think, but the most important award. This is to the, I think, senior skipper is the official name. This is people, families, and so on that have been racing their own family seniors for the longest time out here on our course. We have some honorable mentions. First, the Hinkles in Fantasy 1, Fantasy 2, Joe D. and his dad, James. My first Wianno Senior was 55 that I bought a long time ago, and I had the colors of Fantasy. They were in front and we were sort of behind, but that blue with the green deck, I patterned my first senior after that. So we salute them. Second honorable mention. Great blue boat with a white tow rail, Kennedy's. Pinky, who's been around Hyannisport for a while, tells me that the Kennedy family bought that boat in 1932. The Kennedy brothers, as I like to call them, sailed that for a number of years. The new Victoria was built, whenever she was built several years ago. She was first sailed by Joe, and now sailed by young Teddy and Patrick together. And that's, whatever your calculator says, that's a number of years that they've been out here sailing on these courses and deserve a great name. Even though I am a checked-in Republican, is that there's a tremendous amount of interest and enthusiasm because the Kennedy family comes and sails, and they do very well in this fleet. So that some of this excitement about this 75th anniversary is in part due to the fact that they, in fact, come and sail. And actually, I think the family owns 3 boats still to this day. And I was thinking the other day, a long time ago when John Glenn had first come around the world up in space with Joe's dad, Robert, we were there in Hyannisport racing with Bobby Kennedy on, I think, 132, is that right? Resolute. And there he was, back from space, sailing in Hyannisport. And as a young guy of about 18 or 20 years old, that was quite a thrill. And still in my mind today, that was a special thing for me to think about so many years later. Now the winner of this category. You thought fiberglass boats had it all. Well, this fiberglass boat had it all about 20 years ago. Lou Luttrell and Dodie Dorothy Sinclair Luttrell have been sailing on me, number 36, for some time. I guess Lou Luttrell started to sail on, what is it, brother's boat? 2 of them. Number 45, back, I think he's got the notes here, around 1930, 48, whatever. It's 48, okay. Was that the boat or the year? It was a lot easier when there were only 14 of these, right? Bing tells me that they met sometime around 1937 at a protest meeting. They're still figuring out who won. I remember Mimi as a sort of a light green boat at the 50th anniversary of the Hyannisport Regatta. It was such a big event that I don't think the Hyannis Regatta sailed that year because Hyannisport had precedence. I was a young lad, about 12 or 13, and we started to sail over from Bass River in our Beetles. And it was just blowing like the hinges of hell, and we turned around Parker's River, which was just about the end of the world when you were 12, and came over by car. And I waddled down the Hyannisport Pier, and 2 little guys named Marty Shannon, who's Lee Williams, one of her brothers, and a little guy named Peter O'Keefe said, "Hey kid, do you want to sail?" And I said, "Sure." And I jumped in the Beetle, and that was the beginning of a long-time friendship that for almost or over 30 years we've been great friends, except for a couple hours around the buoys and stuff. Well, if Lou Luttrell and Dodie Sinclair Luttrell would come up, they've won the award.
Correction. This is for Jody. Her birthday comes up tomorrow.
If there are any lingerie salesmen in the crowd, this could be an opportunity.
Oh, how do I hold the camera steady when I'm laughing. Oh, sorry.
The sixth award is an award that was not planned by the committee, but it's an award from a couple of us to all of you. If my assistant, the captain of 173, Thomas O'Toole, would come up, please. Now, this is legitimate because Tommy won the Scudder Cup last year.
They look like twins.
Now, what this prize is for the two guys in different boats that look the most alike. Now, hang on, ladies and gentlemen. You ready? Ready? Not bad. If we can get maybe a couple of these might make out good. Now, the both of us have the real pleasure to introduce one of the great mentors of this fleet. That's fatter and faster, right? Bill Jr. Crosby is, I think, is H. Manley's grandson. And I can recall we were racing a big boat a year or so ago off of, we were off of East Chop, probably in the wrong direction. And one of the young kids said, Jesus, there's a guy out there sailing by himself going towards Vineyard Haven. And I said, there's a guy out there sailing by himself, but it's Bill Crosby. So Bill, I understand you're going to say a few words. If you'll come up, you're on, and Tommy and I are just going to shake your hand and fade off in the background.
Now, thinking tells me all the funny guys have gone first, and I should be the straight one. So we'll get down to serious business now. I've got some paperwork here to go through. He gives me 60 seconds. 60 seconds, he says. Now to be serious a while. I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the Crosby family that's here tonight to thank the Board of Governors for their kind invitations to the 75th anniversary weekend for Wianno Senior. I think they did a wonderful job so far, and I think they've already been given a hand, but can't we give them just one more hand? Keep it up. 50th anniversary regatta. We thought that was quite a time that summer. It was quite an event. And you know, it really was. It wasn't on quite the same basis that this one is, but we had a good time, and that evening in the yard, we probably had close to 300 people.
We have a rerun of Dodie Luttrell, second and number 36.
O'Toole. You look familiar. Number one, now you guess. Come on, Don, get your trophy. Wianno Senior pretty smartly. This guy races better than I understand.
It was interesting. We didn't expect Lou to be there. In fact, to be all perfectly honest, he was a big surprise at the last Lou was on 174 because we thought Lou wasn't racing 174. And it wasn't until after the race we found out, but we almost got cooked. Just terrific compliment from certainly one of the best that we've ever seen. And again, obviously, it's not just me. It's the real brains of the boat is my wife, Sarah Molyneux, with an able assistant
There's one final award this evening. I don't know how many of you have had a chance yet to look at the book that's sitting in front of you called The Senior. The book is actually the product of the work of a lot of people. But there's one man here tonight who really is first, if not more than equal, among the many people who worked on it. And he is a member of a family who was just given honorable mention a little earlier in one of our awards for the families that go back the farthest. What wasn't mentioned was that he is the son of Jim Hinkle, who goes back really the farthest. He's the only one who can truly claim that he's sailing a boat, at least the namesake of a boat, that was racing in 1914. And that wouldn't be such a great thing for him if it weren't for the fact that he's lived up to it very well. And we want to award Joe Hinkle tonight an award which is hard to describe, but the category is for doing the most to preserve the tradition of the Wianno Senior. And to go through the many things which Jody has done would put even the best intention of us to sleep. He's been so busy. But I would like to mention, first of all, that the editorial work on the book before you is mostly Jody's. The format is his. The vision of this fleet, covering 75 years, was his, at least presenting it the way it's been presented. I think this book will become an important part of this class's tradition in the future. It's all we've got, really, to reach back with before many of us were sailing. In addition, he has brought back to life what I think may be one of the very oldest trophies in competition on the East Coast today, the 1920 Crosset Trophy, which was awarded for the Wianno to Edgartown race for the first time in 40 years just last week. And I would say is well-deserving himself, in spite of the fact that he's Jim Hinkle's son, of his own award. So I would like to present a final award of the evening to Joe Hinkle.
because indeed there had been some alteration in number 11. A similar letter, which appeared, came the next year, I believe, to the same Commodore, suggesting that the members of the Wianno Yacht Club might like to subscribe to putting a ways in at East Bay, which, together with his own, would be sufficient to take the fleet out of the water about once a week. And he advised that taking the boat out of the water about once a week and just lightly scrubbing the bottom was sufficient to keep the bottom paint in good trim for the entire season. So it took me a while to sort of digest these items, but it became clear to me that although I had thought of my father as the establishment for all these years, lo and behold, he was just a bloody upstart. That's really what those people who sell number 11 were all about. There were the Days and the Crosses and so forth, and they were the establishment, and this was the group from across the bay, really, who was doing their damnedest to break into the fleet. And the whole point about Wianno Senior sailing, it seems to me, down through the years, is that there have been two things. One, people willing to break into this fleet, and second, the rest of us who put up with them.
Anything can happen. You're taking a turn at 200 miles an hour and the wind kicks up. You better be ready for it.
If you're informed, if you're smart, you're aggressive, winner takes all.
Without up-to-date information, you can't be accurate.
Without up-to-date information, you cannot succeed.
Toys R Us needed a computer company that could help them serve their customers best at the most difficult and demanding times. Online transaction processing from digital allows them to offer a perpetual selection of toys, faster checkout, and has helped them become the largest toy retailer in the world.
High in the picturesque Swiss Alps, little has changed in 300 years. For the people who live here, life is much the same as it was for their fathers and their fathers before them. But in recent years, the inhabitants of this alpine village have begun to worry about their famous tourist attraction, the Grindelwald Glacier. The vast sheet of ice straddling the eastern slope of the Eiger is gradually disappearing. Inch by inch, the glacier is melting. Bern, the 800-year-old capital of Switzerland, is a city of medieval architecture, of literature and science. Hans Oeschger is no stranger to the mystery of the glaciers. 30 years ago, he began to wonder about the climate. Could the glaciers be melting because the Earth's temperature is rising? Could the climate be changing? Oeschger knew the answer lay hidden in the past. Here at the University of Bern, he and his colleagues pioneered the technique of retrieving fossil air from ancient ice. Today, he is one of the world's leading authorities on the greenhouse effect.
Judy, ich bin jetzt da. Ist alles in Ordnung? Ich gehe ins Labor runter. Ist gut.
The laboratory contains some 2,000 ice cores from glaciers around the world. For Oeschger, coping in sub-zero temperatures is all in a day's work. Glaciers form when winter snow doesn't melt the following summer. With each successive snowfall, the old snow is compressed until it finally turns to ice. Trapped inside are bubbles of air, tiny moments of antiquity that preserve the atmosphere from long before the dawn of civilization. The oldest cores come from polar regions where snow has steadily accumulated since the ice ages. In 1971, an international team of scientists began drilling on the Greenland ice cap. It was a colossal feat of engineering, but the results were spectacular. By 1981, they had drilled to a depth of more than a mile. Eventually, the core would span some 12,000 years. Fragments of the core were carefully preserved and catalogued before they began the 5,000-mile journey to Bern. The cores date back to the end of the last ice age, when the Earth began to gradually warm. Oeschger's team wanted to find out if there had also been a change in the chemistry of the atmosphere. To do so, they will measure the amount of carbon dioxide and methane, gases that trap heat in the atmosphere. Before the cores can be analyzed, the ice is shaved to remove any contamination. To release the bubbles of fossil air, the core is then put into a vacuum chamber and crushed.
Das sieht man jetzt nicht, aber natürlich aber, ja. Volumengröße und über Druck.
Oeschger and his team have now analyzed thousands of samples, and the results are startling. Chemical analysis reveals the origin of the carbon dioxide to be man-made. Since mankind began burning fossil fuels to power the Industrial Revolution, carbon dioxide has increased 25%. Methane has doubled. Climate records show an increase in global temperature over the past 200 years. From the analysis of ice cores, Oeschger found that the rise in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere corresponds dramatically to the rise in global temperature. For Oeschger, the implications are profound.
What man is doing, actually changing the atmosphere, that is happening now, and that's something which will lead most probably to significant climatic changes in the next 100 years or so.
Ancient air, trapped in ice, has given us a sobering glimpse of the past. But what can it tell us about the future? At the National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, Colorado, scientists are peering into the 21st century to see if the current increase in greenhouse gases could change the climate. Here, the complex interactions that occur in the atmosphere are reduced to mathematical equations. Because climate cannot be reproduced in a laboratory, a machine simulates nature. A powerful computer can calculate a year of weather in hours. The result? A dynamic, three-dimensional model of the Earth's climate. By manipulating the factors that influence climate, scientists have created a crystal ball to look into the next century. Climatologist Stephen Schneider has seen the future. He is concerned about the increase in carbon dioxide and how it could affect the weather.
All of us have had the experience of feeling warm and cold days. We know one day can be 10 or even 20 degrees different from the day before. Well, that weather change is very large. Against that background where we live locally and think from day to day, how can we fathom what a 3 degree Celsius or a 5 degree Fahrenheit change is for the globe and over many decades? Well, the computer can actually help us understand that. In the lower panel, we're looking at a sequence of weather for normal. That means today's climate. Red is warmer. In this case, it means weather that's 10 degrees Fahrenheit or 6 degrees Celsius warmer than average, and blue is colder by 10 Fahrenheit or 6 Celsius. The upper panel is for a world that in the computer has carbon dioxide doubled, and that world is something like about 5 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer. Well, let's take a look in motion what happens. Now, notice that down below, roughly equal amounts of hot and cold days, whereas in the CO2 doubled world, there's still some cold snaps coming across, but that the likelihood or probability of having warm is greater. We're still going to get weather systems coming and going. We're still going to have cold days in the winter, but the probability of getting red is much higher than it is in the normal weather, and the probability of getting blue is lower. But still, people are going to feel weather systems come and go in the future as well as in the present. The difference is we're going to have more extreme heat waves, fewer extreme cold waves, more droughts, and this can be very significant for forests, other natural ecosystems, for water supplies, for agriculture, human health, and so forth.
For billions of years, the average temperature of Earth remained stable and life-supporting because of the natural greenhouse effect. The sun's energy comes to Earth as visible and ultraviolet light. Eventually, it is released back into the atmosphere as radiant heat. Gases such as carbon dioxide and methane trap the outgoing heat, keeping the planet warm. But as man-made greenhouse gases increase, the temperature goes up and the natural balance is threatened.
Very often people in the public are confused about the greenhouse effect or any other complicated issue. For example, in the newspaper or on the television, they hear one expert who says this is catastrophic and we have to reform our ways immediately. And then somebody else, usually from an affected industry, who says, but there's a lot of uncertainty and we shouldn't do anything. That's a kind of thing that leads to paralysis. After all, if the experts don't know, how can I know? Very often what's not reported is that there's a spectrum of opinion and that the media have grabbed the edges. They've grabbed the extreme and the extreme. And what's missing is that there's a vast bulk of knowledgeable and responsible people who don't believe it's either totally catastrophic or to be ignored, but that it's a problem in the middle, say an even odds of substantial change. And if the public knew that, and they knew that that was what the majority of people think, and my belief is that is what the majority of knowledgeable scientists think about global warming, then they would be much more willing to take measured actions to slow it down and buy time so that we can adapt more easily and understand what we're doing. Quite simply, we're insulting the environment faster than we understand what we're doing, and under those circumstances, surprises, many of them nasty, are virtually guaranteed.
Some of the surprises could be devastating. Consider this. By the end of the next century, a gradually warming planet could lead to the slow but relentless melting of the polar ice caps. As water is released into the world's oceans, sea levels rise. Storms increase in intensity. Low-lying urban areas are swamped. The familiar map of the planet is dramatically redrawn as seas surge across the land, creating new geographic outlines. Many of the world's major capitals are inundated, disrupting the flow of government. Fertile crop-producing regions are reduced to desert. Agricultural patterns shift. Food supplies are severely threatened. Grain reserves in the industrial world dry up. No longer able to export food to an already impoverished third world, famine increases on an epidemic scale. Millions die of starvation. In a world of rapidly changing climate, familiar habitats begin to disappear. Entire ecosystems collapse. Planet Earth would be a very different place.
Sometime between 15,000 and 5,000 years ago, the planet warmed up 5 Celsius, that's 9 Fahrenheit. Sea levels rose 300 feet. Forests moved. Literally, that change of 5 degrees revamped the ecological face of this planet. Species went extinct, others grew. It took nature about 10,000 years to do that. That's the natural rate of change, if you will, for large changes in the system. We're talking about 5 degrees change as sort of a mid-guess for the middle to the end of next century as a better than even bet from our climate models. But this time it's taking place in 1 century, not 10,000 years. So we're talking about change that could be as much as 100 times faster than nature. It's that rate of change that has me worried, and that I believe the models are credible in projecting, not the details, because when you change that fast, you're almost guaranteed to have surprises.
Raid's here! Raid!
Yes, Raid. Raid contacts and kills all kinds of bugs indoors. Raid hunts them down like radar.
Aerosol spray cans first made their appearance in the 1950s because of a remarkable new chemical.
Kills them dead.
Called chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. They were chosen because they were thought to be harmless to the atmosphere. Originally developed as a coolant, CFCs were commonly known as Freon. Now, everyone could own a refrigerator. Outrageous stunts introduced the latest models. But even greater claims were made for the substance that made it all possible. Considered safe, they were odorless, non-flammable, and non-toxic. CFCs were marketed aggressively and propelled everything from deodorants to insecticides to food additives. They were truly wonder chemicals. Still in use today, mainly as a solvent for cleaning electronic parts and a coolant for air conditioners, CFCs were just too good to be true. But were they as safe as their manufacturers claimed? In 1973, a chemist at the University of California in Irvine made some simple calculations. Because CFCs have a long lifespan, Sherry Rowland wondered where they were going. What were they doing to the atmosphere? Rowland knew CFCs were harmless in the lower atmosphere, but what if they drifted into the upper atmosphere? Every chemist knew the molecular structure of CFCs and how they reacted to ultraviolet radiation. Soon, he sensed that something was very wrong. Rowland and his associate, Mario Molina, calculated that CFCs would not be as harmless as thought. Chemically, they would be deadly to the Earth's ozone layer. In the upper atmosphere, a layer of natural ozone protects the Earth from the sun's ultraviolet radiation. As CFCs drift above the ozone layer, harsh ultraviolet radiation breaks the molecules apart, releasing chlorine. When chlorine comes in contact with ozone, it robs it of an oxygen atom, destroying the molecule and forming a new one, chlorine monoxide. Reacting to a stray oxygen atom, the molecule becomes unstable and breaks apart. The chlorine is released, beginning a chain reaction. A single chlorine atom can destroy up to 100,000 molecules of ozone. When the two scientists announced their findings, many stopped using aerosols, but industry largely ignored them.
In December of 1973, I came home one day and my wife asked me, how is the work going? And I said, it's really going very well, but it looks like we may see the end of the world.
In 1978, 5 years after Rowland's prediction, NASA launched a Nimbus satellite to study the Earth's natural resources. It would also monitor the ozone layer. By the early 1980s, its instruments began to record abnormally low concentrations above the Antarctic. While the satellite continued to orbit the Earth, researchers at the British Antarctic base at Halley Bay were measuring ozone in the skies above the South Pole. They began to detect a drop in the readings. By 1985, Chief Researcher Joseph Farman decided to publish the findings. He was convinced that there was a hole in the ozone layer. Ironically, the readings from the satellite were so low, the information had been ignored. Farman's discovery would force NASA to reevaluate their data.
Any problems to sort of help me incorporate them into the...
Atmospheric chemist Robert Watson thought that there had been an error.
We thought that the data was in some way flawed, that it was basically wrong. So we rejected the notion that there really was a hole in the Antarctic ozone shield. After Joe Farman reported observing the ozone hole, the scientists at NASA Goddard went back to their satellite data and started to look at it with much more scrutiny.
Hi, Mark. What you got? Oh, hi. This is really interesting here.
At the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, scientists compared the early readings to the latest satellite data. The proof was there. A hole had been torn in the ozone layer. Seen here in black against an outline of Antarctica, the ozone hole is now larger than the continental United States. To find out what was causing the hole, NASA dispatches its converted U-2 spy plane to the upper atmosphere to bring back air samples. A DC-8 flying laboratory will explore the lower regions of the ozone layer. High above the frozen wastes of the Earth's most desolate continent, instruments pick up vast quantities of man-made CFCs and traces of chlorine monoxide, or CLO, which trigger ozone destruction. The smoking gun had been found. Sherry Rowland was right. Robert Watson.
We believe that the ozone hole over the South Pole is primarily caused by man-made chlorine. As we flew south from